Hello and welcome to my list of 10 games that turned 10 in 2021. If you follow my channel, you know I like to do this most years. Sorry it's a bit late, I've been a bit busy. But yeah, I thought we could go back, have a look at some classic gaming memories of some of the best games of 2011 and hold each other whilst we rock in fear at the rapid succession of time and the fact that we are all going to die one day. Anyway, enjoy. The original Portal was released in 2007 as part of Valve's The Orange Box collection, and it was arguably the highlight of the lineup. Pretty impressive when it was up against the likes of Half-Life and Team Fortress. Its sequel, Portal 2, took everything that was great about the original game and expanded on it. GLaDOS and Shell returned, but they were now accompanied by the likes of Wheatley, the moronic little bot voiced by Stephen Merchant, and the founder of Aperture Science, Cave Johnson, who is voiced to perfection by J.K. Simmons. Portal 2 features a more in-depth single-player story that includes all the sharp and witty humour you'd expect after playing the first game. It also expands upon the puzzles by adding different gels that you can use to jump higher, run faster, or splatter on surfaces to create more portal opportunities. As if this wasn't enough, the game also came with an excellent multiplayer mode, which saw you and a friend go through a vast array of test chambers that require not 2 but 4 portals to solve. If you've not played Portal games, then get your butt on Steam and do it now. And seriously, Valve, where the hell is Portal 3? It would be fair to say that LA Noire may have been a bit of a disappointment to some when it came out. Developed by the now defunct Team Bondi and published by Rockstar Games, you'd be forgiven for assuming this was essentially a new Grand Theft Auto game set in LA in the 40s. After all, it features an open world to explore, cars to drive, guns to shoot, and bad guys to take down. But a GTA spin-off, this is not. As its name suggests, the game is inspired by classic noir films of hard-talking cops trying to take down criminals in a corrupt city, and this is a far more slower-paced game than what you'd expect from GTA. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of gunfights and car chases, but the meat of the game lies in investigating crimes, looking for clues, interrogating witnesses for the truth, and putting the pieces together to crack the case. For its time, the game featured excellent voice acting and graphics, and there was a heavy emphasis on carefully watching the suspects as they were interrogated to spot when they're lying to you. If you've ever fancied yourself a detective, then this is one to check out. In 2015, CD Projekt Red released The Witcher 3, which is now widely regarded as one of the best RPGs of all time, if not one of the best games of all time. While the previous games may not have quite achieved the lofty heights the third game set, The Witcher 2 is absolutely worth your time if you'd like to spend more time hunting monsters and exploring a gritty fantasy land. If you've not played the first game, then fear not, the sequel features a nice recap of what happened, and you'll soon find yourself embroiled in an intriguing plot that sees Geralt and his allies fighting to survive against the dark forces that would do them harm. Many of the characters you loved in the third game also feature in the second entry, and you'll find yourself better understanding the events of the third game when you see how certain things are set up in this one. While The Witcher 2 is an open world, it features a number of large areas to explore, and there's plenty of side quests to keep you distracted from the main story, as well as those difficult, morally ambiguous choices The Witcher is known for. The Witcher 4 is still many years off, so why not give the first 2 games a try? The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is often cited as one of the greatest games of all time. In fact, I just checked, and it's the highest rated game of all time on Metacritic with a score of 99, although it better stay on its toes, because old Toby Hawk is nipping at his heels. What can I really say about this game that's not been said before? Originally released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64, this game blew players away with its cutting-edge graphics, amazing story, hauntingly beautiful music, and memorable cast of characters. Fast forward to 2011, and Nintendo blows everyone's tits off by announcing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. If you were just a little kid back in 2011, then you might not remember, but there was a month of non-stop celebrations after the announcement. No one went to work. Everyone across the globe just took to the streets to party. It was nuts. Anyway, Nintendo wasn't about to just release some measly port of the original game. Oh no, sir. The game was lovingly remade from the ground up while staying true to the original, so much so that the programmers even insisted on keeping some of the bugs found in the classic game because they felt they were part of its character. I know that remaking a game is generally a pretty surefire way to make money, but you've got to remember that for Zelda fans, remaking Ocarina of Time is like rewriting the Bible. So did the 3D remake live up to expectations? Yup, yes it did. Alongside AAA giants like Uncharted and Halo, you also had access to so many super cool little indie titles. They may have lacked the scope and graphical fidelity of AAA games of the time, but they more than made up for that by featuring fantastic gameplay. There have always been great indie gems, don't get me wrong, but the scene was in its renaissance during that period, thanks partly to the Xbox Live Arcade, which shone a spotlight on these kinds of games. You had the likes of Limbo, you had Super Meat Boy, Fez, Journey, Flower, Braid, just to name a few, and they were all small but delicious meals that filled you up whilst making you hungry for more. Bastion was one of those games. Bastion has you explore a beautiful fantasy world, and along the way, your actions are narrated by a guy who makes Morgan Freeman's voice sound grating. The game features a large variety of weapons and enemies, and plenty of loot to be found. It also includes a beautiful soundtrack with one track called Build That Wall, which I've listened to countless times since I discovered it. As I said, we were spoiled for choice when it came to excellent indie games a decade or so ago, but Bastion is easily one of the best. The Gears franchise may not be quite as hot as it once was, but back in the 360 era, it was one of the greatest shooters you could play, easily rivaling the likes of Call of Duty and Halo. Following on from the second game, Gears 3 was hotly anticipated by fans, and we couldn't wait to catch up with Delta Squad and finish the fight against the monstrous Locust Horde. The single-player campaign picked up from where the previous one left off, and players once again stepped into the armoured boots of Marcus Phoenix as he revs up his Lancer rifle and jumps into the fray. Along the way, you'll learn more about the Locusts, more about Marcus and his friends, and you'll get a conclusion to this epic war story. Of course, this being the days of the 360, online multiplayer was a must, and the game didn't disappoint on that front either. All the classic game modes returned, and there were many more characters to play as well as plenty of weapon skins to unlock for your loadout. The highlight of the online, for me at least, was Horde mode, which expanded upon the original version seen in Gears 2 and added bosses, defensive structures to build, and heavy weapons to take advantage of. I can't tell you how many hours I spent fending off the Locust as gunfire rained down on me, but I can tell you I enjoyed every second. Dark Souls. What am I meant to say about a game that literally created an entirely new genre and spawned countless imitators that brand themselves as Souls-like? A spiritual successor to Demon's Souls, which, despite being excellent, failed to find a large audience due to its niche gameplay and the fact it was a PS3 exclusive. Dark Souls forged the path that had been mapped out by a successor. Available on every platform, its rave reviews entice gamers to give it a shot despite its punishing gameplay, and many discovered the absolute joy you can have smashing your head against a brick wall. I've been gaming about a decade before Dark Souls came along, and I thought I was pretty good, but the game showed me what a long way I had to go before I could call myself a real gamer man. I played Dark Souls on and off for about 2 years before something just clicked, and I finally understood how the game worked. It was so goddamn refreshing to play a game that doesn't hold your hand every step of the way. I would get to bosses, die a few times over, and be like, this is it, I've hit the limit of my skill, I cannot beat this guy. Then I would eventually get closer and closer until I finally beat him, and it feels like 1,000 angels are rejoicing as I absorb his souls and light the bonfire. I've never been more frustrated than when I play Souls games, but I've also never felt more elated than when I finally push through to the other side and come out victorious. I still have PTSD from these two, but I'm so proud of the fact I beat them on my own, and I put that on my resume. Praise the sun, my friends, praise the sun. I'd never been a huge Batman fan before the Arkham games came along. Sure, The Dark Knight is one of my favourite films, and mainly thanks to this clown. But as a hero, I always found Batman to be a bit too edgy and depressing. That will change when I played Arkham Asylum, and more so with City. It's so obvious that the game's developers really care about the character and have actually read a few Batman comics. They understand what makes Batman tick, what his strengths are, and where his weaknesses lie. If Arkham Asylum was an appetizer for what was to come, then City is like a delicious main course. City takes you off the claustrophobic island of Arkham Asylum and unleashes you as the Cape Crusader into Gotham City. Stalking the streets of Gotham on the hunt for criminals feeds your fantasy of being a superhero, and the amount of gadgets at your disposal indulges that fantasy of being some billionaire with access to cutting-edge tech. I have heard some people criticise the combat for being too easy, but I still think it's incredibly satisfying to watch Batman walk into a room full of goons and dispatch them one by one until they're out cold on the floor and Bats hasn't taken a single hit. Also, in its defence, Batman is a world-class martial artist. A few street thugs aren't really meant to be a problem for him. Plus, if either one of the goons has a gun, then you're at a serious disadvantage. Batman is not superhuman, and a couple of shots to the chest will see him reunited with his mum and pups, so you're encouraged to think strategically, use stealth and your gadgets to your advantage, and pick off the goons one by one until you feel confident you can take them down in the open. Look, I'm going to piss off a YouTuber I really like by saying this, but this game really made me feel like Batman. When it comes to keeping the PS3 competitive with the Xbox 360, Naughty Dog deserves a lot of credit for attracting players to the console with the absolutely superb games they released on the platform. Not one, not two, not three, but four incredible games that push the envelope of what gaming can achieve. Seriously, how many other studios can boast such a hot streak on just one platform? I'm going to be honest, narratively, Uncharted 3 is probably the weakest of all the Uncharted games. I mean, it's still fine, but compared to how strong Naughty Dog stories usually are, it kind of falls short, but you'll be having way too much fun to care. The game feels like it took all the best action set pieces from the Indiana Jones films, pumped them full of coke, and then blew them out of a rocket. One minute you're in a pub brawl, the next you're trying to escape from burnt down ruins, then you're trying to escape from a sinking ship as it's torn apart by a storm. This is all just the first half of the game as well. And on top of that, you're enjoying the adrenaline inducing moment to moment gameplay as you climb, swing, jump, and shoot your way to the next piece of the puzzle. When I first played the game, I assumed it was the third and final chapter in the series, and I was kind of underwhelmed by how little closure the end provided. But I think the series finale with Uncharted 4 actually helped make this game feel more like the perfect stepping stone between the third and fourth game. Look, Uncharted 3, if you're watching this, what I'm trying to say is I'm sorry I didn't appreciate you before. If you would just give me a second chance, I'll spend every day trying to make it up to you. I'm sorry I kept drunk calling you at 3 a.m. the other night, and don't be jealous of Tomb Raider, she's just a friend. God damn, I still remember the hype for Skyrim like it was yesterday. Everyone and their mother was looking forward to this game. Even your granny would go and sit with her friend on the park bench and feed the ducks as they talked about how they were going to wreck dragons with their chaotic neutral Argonian who specialised in stealth. Seriously, I honestly don't want to know how many hours of my life have been put into chasing this dragon. I played the shit out of it when I got it on the 360 at launch, and a few years later I played the shit out of it again when I got my first gaming PC and started messing around with mods. Then I played the PS4 re-release and played it so much I got every trophy. You just know they're going to re-release it on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and I'll probably play it again on there too. Playing Skyrim for me is just like coming home. Okay, so the graphics were never cutting edge, but it just proves graphics don't count for everything. The game oozes atmosphere, whether you're bartering for goods in the City of Solitude or climbing the 1,000 steps to the throat of the world. There are so many different approaches to take when you're creating a new character that I really don't understand how anyone could play this just through once. Look, I'd be the first to point out Bethesda has lost a lot of trust from gamers in the decade since this game came out, but I still cannot help but be hyped for The Elder Scrolls 6. But seriously, Bethesda, if you release it as a buggy mess, if you fill it with microtransactions, if you try and make it a live service, in short, if you fuck it up, I will come to your house and slap you in the face with my Wabbacan. So there you have it. There are 10 games that turned 10 this year. Are you feeling old yet? Death is creeping up on all of us. Anyway, let me know in the comments which your favourite game was, or shout at me if I missed out your favourite game for 2011. I'd be interested to know what it was. There were plenty of great games out that year. I had to leave a lot off just to do the top 10 type of thing, but I'd be eager to know what yours are. Anyway, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.